Hello there, welcome to another video. I'm another Magento dev, and in this video we're going to look at building a basic module, fairly basic, but I'm going to apply it from a actual sort of client brief and just show how simple what sounds like initially is complex functionality, how simple a module can be to achieve what is required. So when this is a real brief, where a copy of a real brief what we got this week, and I'm quite a sort of a literal person, so when I read this, can we add an account field onto the customer account information? Right, so far so good, but that could mean a lot of different areas, couldn't it? In Magento, it could be the front end account, could be the back end account, could even be within the order information. And it turns out it is within the order information due to the next sentence. It doesn't need to be mandatory, but needs the field to pull across onto orders so that when they are emailed through to the customer service team, it makes it easier for them to know which account it is linked to. Right, so if I was to translate that, then what they require is a customer order field, or customer account field, sorry, on the order view page. Like the fact that they've said emailed through and pull across onto orders is kind of misleading. And initially you might look at that and think, oh shit, right, I've got to save a field that's in the account, on the customer account, to the order, to the sales order table, and then I've got to somehow get that onto the customer order email, and then I've got to then save that information in the customer account, right, in the order, the order view, so the actual order that comes from the back end, right. So the first part of that, saving a field on customer account, or account field, a new custom field on there, or an EAV attribute, and the last bit, showing the information in the account, well, that's the easy bit. So looking at the middle bit, you think, well, is that overkill? But really, what they're not actually asking for the information to pull across to orders, because as developers we understand that as being sort of a transposition from a quote into an order, and it's complex. You need plugins and you could use a plugin, or you might have to write something on the observer to move that information, because obviously Magento doesn't, it saves some account information to the order, but not all of it's available in those areas, so it needs quite a lot of customization. And also the bit that scared me was putting it on the email, but then when I thought about it and obviously got a little bit more information off the client, they didn't actually need it on the email. That's like a colloquialism to them to say they receive the order email from the customer and then they go into Magento and check that order. So it didn't need to be on the email, so we've saved ourselves a bit of trouble there as well, because that would have been a bit of a nightmare. Again, that would have been, an observer would have had to written to do that. So this looked quite complicated by the way it's written, but as it turns out, the module we're going to write is really quite simple. There's not much to it. So let's crack on. Let's crack on with it. So here's a demo site version basically. So it hasn't even got a code folder yet, so I'll knock in a code folder there. Now I've got a great extension for doing these. I've showed it before in another video. It is one of these ones. I think it is it Magento snippets? This is Magento Wizard. Magento Wizard, that one. It's brilliant. Watch what it does. So we'll just get rid of that for now. So Magento Wizard. With it installed on VS Code, Magento Wizard, you do Control Shift, and P, and then there you go. So it's asking for a vendor name. So I'm going to start a custom one. I'm going to call it Adam, and the extension we'll call it order field. If I could spell it right, call it order field. Nice and simple. So that's created me an extension called order field, and it's just created me the skeleton look, the registration, the composer, and then like the module XML. So all the core fields that you need, core files that you need. Right, so the first part of the brief was a custom field on on the customer account. So that's fairly simple, straightforward to do. What we need is to use a install script to set up this field. So I have got some code I wrote earlier, so I'm not going to write it all out, but I'll walk through it. So you need an install data file. The extension gives me some boilerplate, but I'm going to get rid of that because that's for a custom product, something for an EAV attribute for the product. This is for the customer account, and you need slightly different code basically for a customer account. So three dependencies we're going to use are those three: customer, and then module context interface and module data setup interface. And I'm also just going to throw all this code in, and then I'm going to talk about it. So we're actually going to spoiler. We're actually going to put in a field called SD account. It's called the account number. It's doesn't have to be required because that was part of the brief, and it's going to be available in the admin customer, which that's the back end in that form. And then we might in the future, or maybe in a future video, but I also needed this functionality for the second part of what the client wanted, but it to be on the customer account and customer account edit. So those are the front end areas of the site. So when adding a field for the customer, these are key here. Setting data on the attribute set ID and the attribute group ID. If you forget those, what's going to happen is the field will be there in the form, but we won't be able to save it. Just won't save any data at all. Right, so that's all set up and ready to go. We've got the usual EAV setup. Obviously, you can add more parameters to this if need be. It's just going to be a varchar text input, dead simple. But obviously, we've seen these before. You can do a fair bit with them. We'll save that. And while we start writing, obviously because we want to keep this video as short as possible, and we'll set off the big four. So my B4 command does setup upgrade, di compile, static content, and flush cache. So we'll set that going. And because I've got that installed data script there, it's going to add it's going to enable the extension with setup upgrade automatically because it'll find it there in config, and then it is going to add this field to EAV attributes basically. Position 9999. So that means that that's going to be at the bottom of the form. Just but obviously you can play about with that. Right. So now we've got that in. The next thing we're going to do is start finding out where we want this to appear in the account. We're gonna have a look, and we're going to have a look on once it's all built out. We'll have a look in the admin, but for now we'll write we'll get the folder structure working. So the first folder I'm going to add is a view folder. So the view folder is where the layout and template files are going to be, because even though it's in the admin HTML namespace, you still treat it like you're writing a front end module, with one slight exception. So in there we want view, and we know, like I said, it's admin HTML, so I'm editing an admin template. The alternative to that would be front end. I would have a front end folder if it was to appear on the front end. I don't need that yet, so we're going to stick with the admin HTML. And then within that folder, again, imagine that's your front end. If you've written a front end module before, you need layouts, and you need it's layout and template, and you need a template folder. And we're going to keep it nice and simple. In the layout folder, right, we're going to find out, now it's building this, what layout XML we need. And I've got it's one of the things I know off the top of my head because I've done it recently what layout file I need, but for the purposes of this, we're gonna search for it. So we'll just jump into the admin of this site. and I'm just going to show you the area where we need this field to display in the order. So we'll go to our Veronica Costello. It's this here, so we're going to add the account number under this in the account information as the brief, you know, wanted. So it's pretty much giving them what they want, nice and simple, keeping it to Magento's sort of core. You know, it'll fit basically. It'll look like it always supposed to have been there, right? So how do we find out what files we need to edit? You know, what XML files, etc. Well, I just basically look normally if I'm unsure for a class or something that looks fairly unique. It could be that there. We could have a search for that, and I'd just jump into my vendor folder and I'd just have a quick search. So found in folder, and I'd just search for this. Right, so it's popping up in a couple of places here, and it's popping up mainly, you know, that looks like a test, something to do with tests, look, and that's the CSS. So we'll go for this one. So there it is, and as you can see, there's a lot in this info, and something else that gives away what this is the, you know, there's the order status is in here, purchase from, but you know, basically this is this entire top section here. It's the entire thing, right? You'll find a sort of like there's this title here. It's the lot. So it seems like overkill really if we have to add another field to this to have to copy that over to our module. Well, luckily Magento sort of thought that someone might want to add more customer information to this area, and it's given us something quite handy. And I would look out for this in Magento admin. Anything that looks like it could be extendable. I've seen it in a couple of other places, like the customer registration form on the front end, for example, has it, and the customer account section in the back end has it. They have little blocks, little child HTML blocks, where you can extend information. As you can see, this is to add extra information into that very table that we want to edit. So this is really useful. So it's basically, if you then do a search for this, because that's always going to relate to a layout file. See, this appears in quite a few places. Look, credit memo, invoice, view. That's the one we're after. And there it is, look. We've got the block. So that's info, what we was just in there. So that's here, look, where we just was, order, view, info, where we just was. So that's using that template, and then within that they've added another container for us to use, which is that one. So we now in our module only need to reference that container. We don't need to mess about bringing everything through. Pretty cool. And then we'll just, then this doesn't have any blocks in it at the moment. It's free to use. So we are using the sales order view XML. Look. So we're going to go layout, and we're going to go sales order view. Now we've got to watch out for this, right? Because lovely. Apart from, and this is a glitch in the plugin. Well, it's not a glitch. It's a bit of a bug, but you need to work around, because this assumes you're working on the front end. This plugin, right? We're not. I'm in the admin HTML, and look at that. It's added that. That's going to crash your admin if you're trying to write a template for the back end. So you need to get rid of that. That layout. Don't need it. In here, we've got a bit of boilerplate code which we can just change around. But we're going to use that there. So we're going to say we want to reference this container just there, and this class doesn't exist yet, but we'll sort it out. And we're going to, obviously it's give us something boilerplate here, but we're going to call that account number, and we're going to add a file in. This is relative to my template folder here that is in admin HTML. So I'm going to add another file in here called account number .phtml. Right, and I want to keep it in line with the table, so I'm just going to nab this code here, which is, you know, another table row, templates. That could have been a disaster. Templates. Now it's giving me my boilerplate code. It's handy, this extension, because it does sort of point you in a direction when you've done something wrong. It it does point them in the right direction. So we're going to use some escaped HTML here, and we're going to call this account number. And then for now, we're just going to write, I want to make sure my module's working fundamentally. We're just going to call that test. We're going to save this. Not yet, we're not actually. First though, I'm going to write my block and just have some boilerplate code in the block. Right, so what we need then, we need a block folder. I'm going to just, because this module, you might want to extend it in the future to like front end, back end. Whenever you're writing a module, to be honest, I would always, if I'm writing blocks, I would always just have an extra folder, unless I'm deadly sure that it's going to be only ever front end or back end. I'd just always just put a namespace folder in there for this one for admin HTML. So in case, I mean, on this module, I do know that I probably do need some front end functionality, and I might need a front end block, but good practice, good practice. Name your namespaces. Obviously, this one's mandatory; it won't work without it. This one, yeah, you're gonna. It's optional in a sense, but yeah, good practice. So, and then I want sort of a field.php, we'll call it. I have a struggle with the word field, don't I? Always have, always will. Okay, field, there we go. So we've got some boilerplate code in there, that's all nice. So that would be, that's the path basically to there. So add a monofield block, admin HTML, and then there. And field with a capital, because it goes right up to your sort of class. Yeah. Easy. So nothing much happening in there at the minute. It's just literally a placeholder for template. I mean, a shorthand for this, if you know that you don't want a block, just a little tip, you can just use that here. If you know you don't need a block, basically that'll work. Basically, handy tip. But we are gonna have something else in there. We are gonna do that. Right. So now saved all that. If I go to back end with any luck, it's not going to crap out. There we go. Account number, that's how it's going to look. Like I say, it's not groundbreaking, but it's nice to feel as if you're just, you know, you're working with Magento for a change rather than against it. Or, you know, we all know we don't work against Magento, it works against us. But in this occasion, you know, we're happy families. And that account number field is it just needs its logic writing now. So I'm just gonna go into this file now. Right, so for the block, obviously there's reasons behind why I'm gonna include the stuff, the code that why I wrote the code I wrote. I can't go into it in this video, it'll take too long, and most of the time you just copy and paste this shit off Stack Overflow anyway, so I won't worry about it too much. So this is what I need to use basically, and I'm just tidying some bits up as well. So let's just bring in our protected variables first. Right. Okay, core registry is going to be important for getting the current order. Customer registry is going to be important for getting the customer field that we need from the customer. So what I wanted to avoid was having to write an extension attribute, having to extend the database schema to have a account field, the account number field, saved to an order, because it turned out that the client only needed to see it in the order screen, it just as a reference basically. So it would have worked, and I'll show you how it would have worked incidentally, but it would have been overkill, and it would have took me extra time that, well, essentially can go and, you know, it's all about profit, isn't it? So let's do it in the most succinct way. Right, so this is what we need. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to build up this I'm just going to build this up. So we're going to build a power constructor here. So we're going to, this is for later, customer, template context, what else we got? I'll tell you what, I'm just going to paste this all in because it's a lot of typing if I don't, so I'll just walk through it. So from here to here. Right then. Okay, customer field constructor, basically. Okay. Custom fields constructor, I called it. And we've got two fields. Actually, I also need this field as well, protected. I just copied over it, in fact. There we go. So this is pretty much everything I need in my constructor. Core registry, as I say, is what I'm going to use first. So I'm going to use that to get the order. And this is how I'm getting the order. It's real simple. Magento has these knocking about. We've got current products we can use. We can use current category. Do other videos on those, but seriously, Google it. It's quite easy when you're on a product. If you're writing a block that appears on a product page, you can get the current product. Because I'm writing a block that appears in the order, I can get the current order. And that's going to get me the order. And the reason I need the order is if you look, say, at info, for example, you can get information about the customer from the order, right? So my idea was, right, I'll get the customer email and then I'll load the rest of the customer data by email because there's a function within Magento already written, like in there waiting to be used, called load by email, and you just pass it an email address and it'll give you the customer. So I thought, you know, that's a pretty decent way of doing it. If I was to have saved the account number to the order, to each order, then I could get my account number from the order, couldn't I? I could have got it from that. But there's another reason why I didn't want to save it to the order. What about customers that have placed past orders? This is a much better way. Getting the account information from the customer on the orders page is a much better way because people who've paid past orders, they might have the field filled in the account now, and what happens if the customer account number changes or something like that? The information, because an order is something frozen in time, it would come back with bugs. There'd be, oh, this customer hasn't got it, that could. This way, if the customer's got it, it'll show. And I think it's the best way of doing it, particularly as this store had been running years and we just wouldn't have had the data in the. If you'd never taken an order before, it was a brand new site, yeah, you might want to build it into the order. I don't know why you'd want to waste your time doing it, but some devs want to waste their time, don't they? I don't. Which is why I do videos for YouTube for free. Right, so I'm going to get the customer email, and I'm going to get it from the order that I've just got in my block here. Right, so I'm going to get the order from there. And I can just bob this in my template file now, so I can use this because it's part of my block here. So I'll just bang this up here. Right, so I'm getting the order here. Right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the next function, or I wrote the next function, and the next function is to get the customer, this is a crucial one, get the customer from the email. But what I did was I thought I'd go right to it, and I got the customer account number, the one that I needed, just using get data, SB account, from the email. Now load by email is a tricky little fella sometimes. I found out that you have to specify the website ID when using load by email, because obviously you could have a multi-site with the same email on two different sites in the database. You know, you got two sites, that customer could be signed up to both of them for whatever reason. So you got to specify that. Luckily this site only had the one, so I just hard coded it in there, but there is ways in which you can get that if you need to. As I said, search for it on the internet. As I always say, search for it on the internet. Now, and all I'm returning here is from the customer. So the customer gives you back all of the customer data. From the customer, I'm getting that. So now, on my template file, I can get account number. There we go. You almost guessed it right. That's Copilot being helpful as always. Really helpful is Copilot on Magento. I might do a video on that, whether Copilot's worth it for a Magento developer. Would that be a good one? put it. If you want me to do that, put it in the let's hit me in the comments. It'll help this video. Like that ain't gonna work because I need to get that from the block. So from the block, I'm gonna say, I mean, that's actually quite useful. So that, yeah, that works. That's the field. Look, Copilot. Right, so that's the field. Oh yeah, get customer email. Nice. Okay. Marvel at the little things, don't you? So get customer email, passing that to get customer, getting back the account number. Let's see if it works. I can do it shorthand. Why not? Right. So hopefully this won't crap out, and then we can take it for a spin. So yeah, it's blank because obviously this customer don't have it. But if I go to edit customer, my field should be here. Yes, it is. Go back to the order, refresh it. Hey, it's working. Lovely stuff. So that is fairly straightforward, isn't it? To be fair, like, I mean, we learned a fair bit of stuff about modules there, and we also learned Copilot can be our friend with Magento. But yeah, still might do a video on that. Yeah, it's nice and simple. Utilise namespaces. Found where in Magento Core I needed to edit. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I like that. Okay, I hope this has been useful. If it has, like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be motivated and to do more content like this. Great stuff. I'll see you soon. Take care.